Hey there, everybody! Welcome to the channel. I'm your host, Rama, and in today's video, I am going to be breaking into the best vehicle in all of Grand Theft Auto Online. Now, there are obviously a lot of great vehicles out there, and I know that a lot of you are going to be quick to say, oh my god, it's the Oppressor Mark II, or the F-160 Raiju, or the Deluxo, or the Toreador. Why? Well, obviously the Oppressor is one of the most versatile vehicles in the game, with missiles, speed, maneuverability, and it's small, making it very, very easy and agile to dodge other people. The F-160 Raiju has a stealth mode, making it almost impossible to find when it's in the skies. It can hover, it has missiles, and explosive machine gun. It's a beast. The Deluxo is an honestly underrated goat with homing missiles that are insanely accurate. It's fast on the road, it can hover over water, can hover in the air. It's really good. And then you have the Toreador, which is an armored vehicle able to survive upwards of 6 homing missiles. It also has homing missiles itself and an unlimited amount of them, the only car in the game that has unlimited homing missiles. The problem is, none of these vehicles are able to be used in missions. If you were asking me the best vehicle in a public lobby, then sure, all 4 of these would easily be good contenders. But today's video is going to feature multiple criteria, which are going to 100% dictate the effectiveness of the best vehicle in the game. So first of all, I should mention that this is an entirely opinion-based video. And if you disagree with what I have to say, then that is obviously your opinion, and it's going to be different from mine. So let me know in the comments what you guys think is the best vehicle in the game. Now, originally, I was actually thinking about this, the half-track, because there's multiple categories that I wanted to explore for the best vehicle in the game. The first one is a simple one. Armored vehicles. This has to be a fact, right? I don't want to be driving around in a public lobby with a vehicle that has no armor. And that is a very common sense thing. It needs to survive at least 4 explosions to be a decent vehicle. And the Armored Kuruma was a choice until, obviously, I realized it could not survive any explosions. So that's a little disappointing. The half-track can survive explosions. The other thing that I wanted was survivability against bullets. And this is another thing that the half-track did check off the box. I need a vehicle that can not only do well against explosions, but also can survive a plethora of bullets. Because if you can't, get shot and, you'll just die from the first shell to hit you, then that's going to suck. And that's why almost 90% of Monty-Tech vehicles are already useless. Monty-Tech vehicles are great, don't get me wrong. They're fast, they feature explosion resistance, and for a public lobby, they are great. But there's 2 problems. When using them in missions, the even bulletproof glass of a Buffalo STX really doesn't mean much when your bullets, when they're, just going to shoot through your glass after 20 rounds. And not only that, but most players in a public lobby will just pull out a minigun and cut right through your glass. So Amani-Tech vehicles are all scratched off the list. While they are great shouts, I just don't see Amani-Tech vehicles being the best when there are other options which I deem better. Once again, the half-track does feature completely bulletproof glass in the front, but there's a problem with the half-track. There's actually 2 problems with it. The first one is it's really slow. Nobody wants to use a vehicle that goes at a top speed of 60 miles per hour. I mean, sure, it'll get you there in one piece, whether you're in a public or mission, but at the same time, it's still slow, and I can't fast travel in missions, meaning that, yeah, this is basically scratched off the table. But there's one other problem with the half-track, and it's the biggest one of the bunch, and that is you can't use weapons. Yes, it does have proximity mines, and these mines are really dangerous. They will blow up and blow any other vehicle up around them, which is great. But you can't shoot out of it. So to kill NPCs in front of you or anybody in front of you, you have to get out of the vehicle to kill that person. So because of that, I think the half-track, while it is great, it has that major problem. Even if it was slow and you could shoot out of it, I would 100% say it would probably be the #1 pick. But because you can't shoot out of the half-track, it defeats the purpose of the armor. So yeah, because of that, I'm going to have to put the half-track into the 2nd place position, especially with the speed. But the #1 vehicle for today's video is one that's probably going to surprise you, and that's because it's actually a free vehicle. We are going to return our half-track to our storage and go call our mechanic. So as I said, this vehicle has multiple categories it needs to fulfill. First of all, it needs to have bullet resistance. It's not going to be easy for NPCs to kill you when driving and for online players to kill you. It needs to have multiple explosion resistance. It needs to be able to be spawned in a mission. For example, if we go over to my nightclub garage, this is filled with weaponized vehicles like the Oppressor Mark II and the Deluxo. Guess what? I can't call any of those out because they are only available in public lobbies. Now, the Vigilante is a decent shout. The Vigilante does have missiles, homing missiles at that, and it can be used in missions. But the Vigilante does not feature explosion resistance, meaning that in a public lobby, it's essentially useless. So, yeah, again, there's so many limitations to each vehicle. But there's one that I think checks off almost all the boxes without too much compromise. If we make our way to the Arena Garage and we go to the Arena B1, we have the Duke O' Death. And yeah, you might be thinking, wait a sec, really? The Duke O' Death, that's the best pick? But I'm going to be honest, I seriously think the Duke O' Death checks off every single box. First of all, it has bullet resistance. On the front, all of this armor paneling actually counts as armor. And especially for somebody that's in the passenger seat, this is all bullet resistant. And not only that, but so is the engine scoop. Meaning that if NPCs are shooting at you, it's very hard for them to actually hit you, because not only does the engine scoop take a lot of the shells, but because of the way that the armor's designed on this vehicle, it's almost impossible to get killed by NPCs. And I would still say that this is much better bullet resistance than any Amani Tech vehicle. Obviously, it's not as good as the half-track frontally, it's not as good as the ZR380, but you can't use the ZR380 in missions, and the half-track cannot use weapons. The Duke O' Death can actually use weapons out of it. As we can see, I can shoot a weapon around the entire front of the vehicle, and even a decent chunk of the sides. And by the way, if you're a smart Duke O' Death driver, you'll show the rear of the vehicle when you're at lower health. And the rear of this vehicle is completely bulletproof. So the Duke O' Death has pretty solid bullet resistance, which is the first category that we needed to check off. The second category for the Duke O' Death is explosion resistance. And believe it or not, the Duke O' Death can survive 5 homing missiles, the 6th one blowing it up. Meaning that it's actually really, really durable against explosions, which is actually fantastic. Another category, which I didn't even break into, is ease of pushing vehicles out of the way. This is something that sounds kind of goofy, but it's actually really important. I've had a lot of vehicles in missions that can't push cars out of the way. And what happens is NPCs will drive into you, or let's pretend somebody in an insurgent drives into you and they want to kill you. Well, in a lot of normal vehicles, you're screwed. You're going to stop right on that insurgent and they're going to blast your brains out. But in the Duke O' Death, it's actually quite a heavy vehicle. And as we can see, because of that, it doesn't have much struggle pushing cars out of its way. Yeah, you will lose a little bit of speed, but it's not something you're going to have to worry about. So the Duke O' Death has bullet resistance, explosion resistance, and it's quite heavy, pushing vehicles out of its way. It's also fairly fast, unlike the half-track, reaching a top speed of 110 miles per hour, while also having pretty good maneuverability in general, which is actually really, really nice. So what else do we have in the criteria for the Duke O' Death? Well, honestly, that's about it. It can be used in missions, it's fairly fast, and has all the other things I've talked about. And because of that, I personally think the Duke O' Death is the best vehicle in the game. I think it is truly underrated. Now, yes, when you're in a public lobby, it's beneficial to pull out an Oppressor Mark II or F-160 Raiju. But I can tell you for a fact that if you are in a public lobby and you whip out the Duke O' Death, chances of you dying are slim to none. Nobody's going to sit there and fire 6 homing missiles at you and hit all of them in an Oppressor Mark II. And not only that, you have the ability to shoot back if somebody does get close to you on ground. You're fast, so you can evade whatever is trying to chase you, and because of that, the Duke is just an incredible shout. So I really do think that this is the best vehicle in the game. And plus, if you disagree with my opinion, oh no, it's free. You can pick up the Duke O' Death even as a level 1 by simply going to Warstock Cash and Carry, sorting by price, and seeing it right at the top for absolutely free. So yes, the Duke O' Death, in my personal opinion, is the best vehicle in the game. It checks off all the categories that I look for. There's not a single situation where the Duke cannot excel. And while there are vehicles that might do better, the Duke will not fail and it will not struggle. So, because of that, I think it's the best. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? That's obviously up to you. And let me know if there's a vehicle maybe I missed. But a lot of the vehicles had some sort of sacrifice. I'd choose a Duke over an Amani Tech vehicle any day of the week. And I'd choose the Duke over a lot of the armored vehicles any day of the week. It has everything going for it. It's a great vehicle. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.